Howdy folks, it's Angel, the hunting gear guy. Sorry, I've got a cold, but I still want to do this video. This is the Kel-Tec SUB-2000 Gen 2. This is a 9mm semi-automatic carbine, and it's kind of interesting. It folds out to become a full gun, I guess. And it's very lightweight and, again, very compact. It's super easy to just chuck into a gun case and take out to the range. It doesn't take up too much space, so pretty interesting. Why don't we take a closer look? Just before we get there, let's make sure that we're empty. The magazine is empty, and I can see the barrels right there. It's not loaded, so why don't we take a closer look at this thing? Now, just starting at the rear here, we've got a plastic buttstock with a couple spots here for a sling if you'd like. This is also the toggle lock that holds the gun together. Let me just show you that. So as you can see there, it's holding on to the front part of this forend. This is different than the Gen 1 version, and I think it's a big improvement because this is a more solid mounting point. And for us Canadians, it allows us to run these stupid longer barrels because here in Canada we need an 18.5-inch barrel. So this just locks in on the front part of this forend here and allows you to deploy it. We have a 3-position stock here. You can move this pin and you can move the stock in or out to get different positions. I'll show you how that works in a bit. There's our charging handle here, and that charging handle is quite heavy. There we go, and it will lock to the rear in that slot. Kind of getting up here. Now this is where the magazine release kind of pops out the other side, and you can see that the mags do drop free. We've got our cross bolt safety up at the top here. This is on fire. That's on safe. It's kind of hard to push in. It's kind of at the right spot, so when it's on fire, or sorry, when it's on safe, all you need to do is strike it there with your right hand thumb. So it is in kind of the right spot. It's just a bit weird to use and a little bit clicky. There's that magazine release that you can use again with your right hand thumb. Perfect placement, and this is exactly where it is on a pistol, and it's very easy to grab. Now these Gen 2s have an extended port here, so the ejection port's a little bit bigger. We've got this rear sight. This rear sight is actually folding, so I'll show you two things at once here. One, the trigger guard levering down, that unlocks our breech so that we can fold it, and watch that rear sight there. It just kind of folds right in. There you can see the locking recess. This is what the trigger is locking against right here, so it just locks right in there, and that's pretty much it. That's all it's locking against there. Now we've got this Gen 2 forend, nice and tight. This is a lot smaller, a lot cooler of a forend. We've got rails top and bottom. On the top, if you want to run a scope or something like that, again, that will stop it from folding unless you use a special one I'll talk about later. And we've got this one on the bottom if you want to run a flashlight or something like that, no problem, very easy to pop on. Because this is the Canadian version, the barrel's just a little bit longer, and we've got this adjustable sight. So we've got a screw at the back here, and then we've got our post at the top here that uses those pins to move it around. So very nice front sight. Finally, we have a threaded muzzle protector here. So if I was in the Freedom, the US, I'd be able to run a suppressor or something like that on here. But since I'm in Canada, I guess I could run a comp. What's the point? 9mm doesn't kick that much, so I think it's fine as is. All right, why don't we go ahead and disassemble this rifle? So I've taken my magazine out. I'm checking, there's nothing in the chamber. That's something you should do every time you're going to disassemble one of these things. Now, just at the rear here, all I'm going to do is push a little bit just to relieve the tension on this pin, and then I can just push it right out. So it's pushing out from the other side there. Again, putting tension on that pin, pushing that out. And there goes that detent. There's the pin. And there's the buttstock that'll come off as well. Now I'm left with this tube. If I pop it upside down here, I can move this guy rear, pull the recoil spring out, just wiggle this charging handle, it'll come out. Now, then all we're going to do is remove this bolt from the back here, bolt and extension. And that's pretty much it. Now we're stripped down, ready to clean. Now in terms of operation for this gun, again, taking it apart is super straightforward. It can't get easier than that. Folding it back up again, you just need to push that trigger guard up and you're off to the races. So very quick gun to deploy or put back in. In terms of use, there's a couple things I like, a couple things I kind of dislike. The safety is quite snappy, so it's got that detent ball on there, and it can be a little bit stiff. What I like about the mag release and the gun itself is that it just all operates just like a pistol does, right? So you load it like a pistol and you unload it like a pistol, which some of the other pistol caliber carbines have the magazine up front, and usually that means that you have to use some weird magazine release, depending if it's using 1911 mags or Glock mags or whatever. Just the fact that this guy's all on your hand, it's again very easy to use. Some things I kind of dislike: the charging handle's kind of in an awkward position, and it's very difficult. It's very heavy charging handle spring on it, so that's quite a heavy spring, and some lighter shooters may not be able to use it, even though the gun itself is super light and very easy for someone to fire. So this would be fun for a lady or a youth to fire, but it's got quite a heavy recoil spring. It's just awkward trying to pull it all the way back too because of where it is. The hold open is just a little bit hard to get to, but you just basically pull it to the rear and then turn it a bit, and that'll lock the bolt open so you can take a look and clear any malfunctions if you've got any. Other than that, you know, there's not really too much that I dislike about this thing. It's got a very high visibility front post. I really like, even though this is a plastic rear sight here, I love the peep on a post on the front there. Very good. The steel receiver tube here does bounce against your face a little bit, so you can kind of feel that the vibrations through there, which isn't fantastic. There's a couple of companies that make like covers for this kind of thing that they're a little bit nicer on the face. You got a little bit of movement back here on the buttstock, which is kind of nice. And this Gen 2 forend is a lot nicer than the Gen 1 forend. The Gen 1 was quite blocky. This one's quite small and trim. Lots of pick rail on here if you want to mount something, so very easy from that perspective. Now, if you do want to mount an optic on this thing, and you want to keep the folding ability, there is a mount made by Midwest. Brownell sells them. And what it is a Picatinny mount that rotates. So it's got like an indexing rotating ability on it, so you can run a small red dot on it. Kind of an interesting idea. And if your eyes are bad and you can't use these iron sights anymore, might be the one that you want to take a look at. Now, one thing on here again, one thing I didn't really like, the trigger pull is quite heavy. So I've got an empty gun here, but it's quite a long, creepy trigger pull. There we go. And pretty heavy as well, depending, I was running my trigger pull scale on this, and I was getting around 8.5 pounds. Factory spec on it, I think, is 9, so it's quite a heavy trigger, and it's not that great. You're still going to do way better than you do with your pistol though, right? Because you've got such a nice sight radius, you've got that contact point on your shoulder there, so you can pound a gong with this thing at 100 yards, even with that really heavy trigger on there. Now, some people might be turned off by the amount of plastic on this gun. Again, I don't really think there's much competing with this in the market right now. For the price point it's at, for the folding capacity that it's got, for the compactness, there's just not anything really competing with it. You know, within the PCCs, the pistol caliber carbines, there's you know, the JR carbine. That's a excellent rifle, not a folding rifle, not nearly the price of this one, so not really competing with it. There's also the Aero Precision. Now that one doesn't fold. You can remove the barrel right off of it, and it stows down. Kind of a different kind of a feel to it though, not really the same. And again, the price point isn't really the same either, at least up here in Canada it isn't. So kind of a unique firearm in the Canadian marketplace, and pretty interesting, at least from my perspective, to be able to go hiking and plink and that kind of thing. Pretty inexpensive way to plink with centerfire. So thanks for watching.